Okay, I want to thank everyone for their patience. We're going to call to order the Code Ordinance Enforcement Board for March 25th, 2025. And at this time, we'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Rodney Davis,
Here.
James Bruce,
Here.
Tyler Young, Tony Meacham,
Here.
David Howell, Calvin Brooks, Connie McGahee. Here. Mark Graham.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. At this time, would everyone please stand with me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Our minutes from the March 11th, 2025 meeting was sent to board members, and at this time, we will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, no matter sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, any reports from the staff, fire department? None? Okay. Next, we have public hearings. We have two case hearings on our agenda tonight. Mr. Mark DeArmond is the code officer. So before we hear those cases, I have some procedures we're going to follow. So if you bear with me as I read through those, we will then get started with those cases. Okay, once again, good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Davis. I am the chairman of the City of Hopkinsville Code Enforcement Board. The purpose of this board is to protect, promote, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens residing in the City of Hopkinsville. If a board member perceives a potential conflict in hearing a case, he or she shall recuse themselves from the case and will not discuss their disposition. When your name is called, please come forward. Speak loudly and clearly because we are required to record all proceedings from these hearings. You are here tonight because you received the citation and chose to appear before the board instead of paying the fine imposed on the citation. You have the right to confront and cross-examine any witnesses that might appear here against you. You have the right to call your own witnesses to testify on your behalf and to introduce any physical evidence you feel pertinent to this case. You have the right to have an attorney. If you wish to hire one to represent you, let me know and I will request the board postpone your case to enable you to do so. I have the right as chairman of the board to limit the amount of testimony which is presented. That shall be done when I determine that certain amount of testimony is irrelevant or repetitive. This is not the same as a court of law, and legal rules of evidence do not have to be followed. This is similar to an administrative hearing, and the requirements for the introduction of evidence are not as stringent as in a court of law, but they are nonetheless just as important to ensure a just decision. You shall be afforded all rights which are of fundamental importance to comply with due process standards of fairness and justice. The burden of establishing a violation occurs rests with the city. If the city cannot prove a violation took place, no fine or remedial measures may be imposed. After all the evidence and testimony has been introduced and the hearing has been closed, the board will make a decision. The board will decide whether or not a violation of a local ordinance has been committed. If the board determines a violation was committed, this board will enter an order. If the board determines that a violation was committed, then this board will enter an order dismissing the citation. If the board determines that a violation did take place, the board will enter an order upholding the citation and will order you to pay a fine in the amount up to the maximum authorized by ordinance and may order you to remedy the violation within a specified period of time. In cases involving unsafe structures, the board, as part of its decision and written order, may additionally make a provision for the offender to cure the violation within a period of time not to exceed 90 days pursuant to HCO 33.188F. Except in cases of default, any final order issued by the board may be appealed to the Christian District Court. The appeal must be filed no later than 30 days from the date the board issues its final order. The case in front of the district court will be limited to a review of the record created before this board. If you have any questions at this time, please feel free to ask. Okay, seeing none. Okay, so we're going to call our first case. It's case number CE BPM 25-01-001. Bison Investment LLC. Is there a representative from Bison here? Okay, seeing that. Okay, and Mr. DeArmond, you're the code officer, so if you come forward. Okay, let's first start by swearing you in. If you please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
All right, sir. Can you please state your full name, employer, and position for the record?
Mark DeArmond, Code Enforcement Officer with the Hopkinsville Fire Department.
Okay, Mr. DeArmond, can you tell us about this case on our agenda?
One 131 Locust Grove Road came to our attention in January the 2nd from a passerby. This is Locust Grove Road, if you're not familiar with it, is down 41A, the boulevard toward Oak Grove, still within the city limits. This house was struck by the May 2023 tornado. Property is owned by Bison Investments. To make it more close, more personal, my contact, once I sent the information out, was Gaynell Rittenberry. Well, this is Gaynell's daughter, Emily Rittenberry Bison. As I said, he was hit by the tornado. A large tree took out the accessory structure of the garage and damaged the back portion of the home. Notice of violation was issued on January the 15th, looks like. Citation was issued, at a later date. Honestly, I can see the date, but I've got it on the timeline here in just a second.
March the 3rd.
We did post in the local paper of the hearings. We did send the notice of violation by certified mail, and it did get received, card signed and returned. The citation was sent, but the card was not returned. So now I can clean up the timeline for us a bit. The inspection occurred and the complaint came in on January the 2nd. The inspection took place that day, but the notice of violation did not go out until January the 13th. And during that inspection, it was able to get inside and complete the checklist, and it did in fact meet the checklist for an unsafe structure. On January 22nd, Ms. Gaynell Rittenberry gave me a call saying she represents and help manages this property for her daughter. Said her daughter was in Canada at the time, and said they thought they had some insurance or small business administration applications in. January the 30th, Ms. Rittenberry passed away. So we tabled any activity with this case, allowing the family the time. Some month later, on February 27th, a re-inspection was occurred. Nothing had changed. So the citation was issued. And this, when I was talking with Ms. Gaynell Rittenberry, I said, send me some document, something that you applied for, an insurance or loan or whatever, and this is the document that I got. In calling them, I get no information that it's active or the status is closed. There is just really in limbo based upon the conversations I've had. And I explained the fact that I'm not the property owner. I'm with the city, and this is what we're looking into. And as of date, there's been no response. But I wanted to show you that that was the document that was sent in. Ms. Emily Rittenberry Bison and I have had a couple of conversations. The first time on February 28th, this was right after the citation was issued. She was not visiting in Canada. She resides in Toronto, Canada, so she had not seen the property in a long time. She had left it to her mom to take care of and manage. And when I described the damages, I gave her the options. You know, they can tear it down, they can try to rebuild if they think it's worthwhile, or they can sign it over to the city. She indicated she wanted to sign it over, but she had a couple of calls she wanted to make first. I heard back from her a few days later on March the 5th, and she says, if me and my sister are not able to secure a bank loan, then y'all just tear it down. I've even tried calling her again today, got no answer, and so there's been no other communication other than that, so we're here tonight presenting this case. The water's been off for just under a year. You see the dates there, electricity, all of this coincides with the date of the tornado in May. The exterior walls, this is the back side of the house where the majority of the damage is. You see the back side of the house is pushed out and damaged from a tree. There was a lot of the limbs had been cut down. You'll see that in some photographs where the limbs have been cut in firewood size, but still laying against the structure. The roof in this particular of the house, now this is the house, not the accessory structure. You'll see the garage here in a minute. It was really damaged totally. See a couple of holes in the roof there, and then on another section of the roof, which is going from this photo to the right, and the photo on the right in the middle shows the damaged roof, and it corresponds with water damage on the inside. There was a couple of windows open and wouldn't letting water in. This was the only door, and you see what kind of shape it's in the upper right-hand corner of the photo, and that was where we gained access inside the house. The trash around in front of the garage and on the front porch is primarily cat food cans or packages, along with other trash and debris, along with, as you see, the tree from the storm still in place. In the center of the house, that's where this first photo is taken. That's where the rain come through and the ceiling has fallen through. Here's more insulation from a ceiling from another room there in a small photo in the bottom right. The floors that we found were not damaged, not to the point of where we could find where a tree or any structure had gone through and weakened the floors, but the walls and the ceiling were in fact damaged. Both of these photos we are assuming is black mold growing in the ceiling from the water. It's hard to see the electrical cord, but there's an electrical cord from that ceiling that's dangling. That's the purpose for that arrow. The electrical box is a circuit breaker box. All the breakers and blanks were in. It looked like it had some sparks or some arc damage, but the power's been off. We didn't test it, but the circuit breaker box on the surface looked fine. Water had been off for a while. The plumbing features are in place, but not operable. Hot water heater is outside the door in the backyard. We did not see a foundation issue with the house. The siding went down pretty close to grade level. Still did not see anything that was obvious with the foundation, nor the porches were not damaged. The chimney that's in the center of the house, oddly enough, was not damaged and it was saved. But the rest of the items were applicable, 5 out of 8, or 63% of the exterior structure is considered unsafe. Inside, it was accessible, the interior walls and the electrical outlets and the ceilings are all damaged. The floors, we did not find a spot that had any issues. So the power had been cut off. The circuit breaker panel was fine. There is no gas service at this structure, and the plumbing features were disconnected. The accessory structure of the garage was totally destroyed. Because of the timeline with this, the owner has allowed it to be an issue over the time since the storm, other than trimming up the tree on one side of the roof. Really feel like this, the conditions exist, brings dangerous injuries or health, particularly the health. Number one, it was tricky getting inside, mold growing inside. If folks are in, there's an apartment building, a part of the same property up Locust Grove Road, and there was evidence of folks being in there. So we consider that a health risk as well as a safety risk, so that's highlighted. So 71% as an unsafe structure. Taxes are delinquent in terms of $10,613, dated back to 2018. There have been no reported cases on this property previously. And as of this morning, been no changes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeArmond. In talking to Miss Emily, Miss Rittenberry, you said they considered signing it over, but they just didn't want to do that, or
They wanted to consider other options.
don't consider other option, and they were looking into a bank loan, you say? Okay, I don't have any further questions. I don't know if any board members, y'all have any questions for Mr. DeArmond?
You say there was any evidence of someone homeless or anybody in that house at all? Could you tell?
Yes.
And then you said there was another apartment on the property that there's
131
residents of?
131 Locust Grove Road, that property, if you go back to the map, real quick, we can see that you see the three dots to the left, that's an apartment complex. I say complex, it's an apartment building. Speculating that guests and others are parking there and they can walk across a short distance to this house. And that's only speculation.
Mark, had they put the plastic over to protect the roof some, and it's like all blowing off, right?
All off, yes,
Off
ma'am.
in trees and stuff, so
Yes.
that could be a hazard to the.
Okay, no further question. We're going to close the hearing on this case. Thank you, sir. We're going to close the hearing on this case so the board can deliberate in open session. The board, as a board, we need to determine whether or not a violation existed for this property, so we'll entertain a motion in a second, or the floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that that the city has met the burden of proof that there has been a violation.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let me know by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now we need to determine the penalty for this case by motion and second, and it's a minimum of $350, maximum $700, and it's a $200 administration fee. So we'll entertain a motion. Our floor is open for discussion regarding the penalty.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we assess the minimum fee, fine of $350, $200 administrative fee, and that the city proceed on with the tearing down both the house and the garage that's on the property.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it know by a sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, we're gonna move on to the next case on our agenda. It is case number CE BPM 25-03-003. Ms. Molly Spain, I believe, is present. Okay. Ms. Spain, we're gonna let the code officer go ahead and present their case, and then we'll call you forward, okay? All right, Mr. DeArmond, you wanna tell us about this next case?
It was not planned to have storm damage cases today, but that's what we've got. 912 Hurst Drive. Hurst Drive is a street off of Oakhurst Drive. Oakhurst Drive is off of Pile Lane, if that helps you folks understand where it's at. And it's a dead end on either way. It tees off once you go down Oakhurst, got a left or right in a short distance, and to a cul-de-sac tees off. But if you look at this home, it's in a very wooded lot, and this photo is a very clear photo of the trees in the house that was taken in 2022. Here's an overview of it. This house it's been a rental home for the Molly Spain and her group for some time. However, it's got a lengthy history of flooding. Some of y'all may remember in 2023, I started for a short time with Community Development Services before moving over to the fire department, and this was a house that I visited during my time in 2023 with CDS. Knowing that it flooded, I went by this house on February the 15th, the first photo on the left and the right on this slide, just to see, because it historically floods. And took these photos, unbeknownst that on February 25th, I was asked to join a meeting in CDS with Miss Molly Spain, Peter Wood, and Deputy Chief Civils, and Tom Britton regarding this house and literally how bad it flooded this time. So we made an inspection the following day and found the conditions to meet the unsafe structure. In attendance on that inspection was Molly Spain, her son-in-law Gary Martin, that's here tonight to speak on her behalf, Deputy Chief Civils Ross Carter, and I walked the house. And the intention, I'm getting ahead of myself with the timetable, but the intention was to see what our options were. So anyway, let me get out of this hole and get it caught up to the timetable. We did post it in the local paper. There was only a citation issued, not a notice of violation, because this house has a history. So we went straight to a citation. The letter was received, card was signed and returned. This is a flood map from Community Development Services, and you see 912 there in the blue, and that AE stands for, it's within the 100-year floodplain. So let's talk about the time a second. February 18th, I on my own just did a drive-by knowing this area flooded and shot those earlier photos. There was a meeting on the 24th at Community Development Services with Ms. Spain talking about the waters inside the house. It's covering the electrical outlets, and she's interested in a buyout from Stormwater or CDS or the city or whomever. That was her mission. We inspected the property on the 25th. Again, you see who attended. And when we finished that inspection, Gary Martin and I had a conversation about the conditions of the house and how, without the checklist, how I felt like it would meet an unsafe structure. We held off on any action, given Molly Spain and Tom Britton and Ross Carter time to talk with Steve Bourne and the stormwater folks to see if there were any funds and see if this house was eligible for that. Otherwise, if it could, we wasn't going to touch it. Well, they did not have it. There were no funds available, nothing that they could be available for. So we're at our position, we're having to post it as a citation. We did that on March the 4th. On March the 10th, Gary Martin and another son-in-law, Robert White, came in, and we talked about the details of the citation, what all was wrong, again, recapping what we saw just a few days before. And the idea of how much to fix. Water was truly, and the photos will show it here in a minute, water was truly 24 inches inside the house. So the drywall, the insulation, all acts like a wick, and that water goes wherever it's going to go. It's going to soak it up. Stormwater runs out pretty quickly, unless it's your house and it don't run out very fast at all. So, but that's, when it's there, it's not fast enough. But in truth, when it quits raining and goes down, it recedes quickly. So we had those conversations, and conversation about selling, and obviously you can't sell with an open case. And this one has in such a history, want to be sure that they know the history. Ms. White, one of Molly's daughters, came in the office again on the 18th and said they've got a buyer. And we talked to her in detail about, and does the buyer truly understand this house history? Does it understand the steps that the city ordinances will require, from a drawings, from building permits, for approvals, and then the tight time frame? She said we've told him that, and they understand that, and they're still willing to go forward. I've got limited exposure in inspecting flood damages, so I recommended to Deputy Chief Civils if we invite Kelly Gardner in, a third-party engineer, to take a look at it on my behalf, to either confirm or deny my thoughts. And he made that inspection on March the 19th. The house was still unlocked, was able to go in and look at it then. So we're at the board meeting. So here's a little bit of history. November 25th of 1979, the house in question, 912, is flooded. The house in question is flooded again in 1988 or 89. There's not a date on the photo, it was on a binder, and it was 88 or 89 when this flood occurred. This was in August 2023. And I'm sure there's more, but those are the ones that I found. So if we look at, so again, you see the water, the rain, the storm for this particular storm was February 15th and 16th, if y'all remember, just a month or so ago. All right. So the photo that up in the upper left was taken on the 18th, and the water is still in the backyard. If you look at the area on the bottom that's pointing to the green moss line, that was the flood of 2023. The area on the top, the brick is yet to dry from the February 15th, and that's the water height on the storm last month. The water was just shut off a month ago. Electricity was turned off yesterday, and this house does not have gas. We follow the same procedures in the basic property maintenance, following the checklist. So you see some photographs taken in 2023. Again, I was a part of that inspection, and so they're included and combined with current photographs. This is inside the crawl space. You saw that door there a minute ago. It's a pretty tall crawl space, and you see the split in the block mortar, but if you look at the bottom block, you'll see that the block itself is split. Mr. Gardner found one of the piers. If you look at where the red line's identifying the dark line around the bottom of the block, that's where the foundation, the dirt, if you will, around the footer that's holding up the floor has eroded over all the storm water that's been inside. This is also a 2023 inspection. You see the width of the crack. The other thing that's important with this is you see that some of the bricks are split. This crack did not follow the mortar joint like in a stair-step fashion. It actually split the brick, and that's when a foundation does settle. It's that kind of pressure that'll cause the brick to separate, just like that one example of the concrete block in the crawl space. So the same crack in 2023, they repaired it. They put brick mortar in its crack, but if you notice, that crack is coming back. So there's still foundation settling, albeit a small crack that was fixed in 2023. Here's just additional examples of the cracks in the brick, and you see in some examples the actual brick itself is split, indicating that the settlement of the foundation is greater than normal. The front porch in the left It's got a crack in the concrete, and you can see where it's settled. The other photo is a back porch, and it's a rotten board, not such a big deal in the whole scheme of things in this house, but nevertheless, a violation. The current roof is new, put in 2023, based upon the NOV that they received in November. The roof on the left was a roof and had numerous water leaks inside, and they put a metal roof over the existing roof. This is a garage. The photo, so you've got a 16, 18-inch step up inside the house. The water is, again, if you see the dark line, the water is some 2 feet inside the house, so it's deeper in the garage. Looks to believe that it floated the refrigerator and flipped it over. That level is a 2-foot level, and so the dark line is a water line that we found throughout the house inside. So there really was literally 24 inches of water inside. Again, the evidence of the water line. If you see all the registers in the floor, and with 24 inches of water, then all the ductwork was saturated with water. So there's water in the crawl space up to the subfloor, and there's 2 feet of water on top of the floor, sandwiching that whole flooring system. You see water that's oozing through the different planks of the laminated floor, mold on the bathroom wall, and there's a unfinished flooring around the commode in this bathroom. See some of the parties during the inspection in the background of the first photo, and again you see where the water. This is on the 25th, some 10 days after the rain, and water is still oozing through the laminated floor planks to the surface. You see where the level is indicating there's a dip in the floor. Photo on the left is a photo of the floor. A piece of the laminated flooring would broke off, and it's again believed, we don't test it, but it's believed that's black mold that's been there. But again, the floor, most of them had not been taken up, they've just been dried, and so they've been wet over and over. This is the view going out to the back porch, out the back door, and that entire section of the floor is leaning to the left and there's a wall along there, and it's right along where one of those columns are in the basement, where it's indicated that the settlement in the crawl space is affecting the floor right there with the floor joists. Here's where the existing water damage inside the house, as I mentioned, what appears to be, again, mold in the large photo. That's in the bathroom above the commode where we saw the other one. I spoke with 2 electrical inspectors here in Hopkinsville for the state regarding all the outlets, wall outlets underwater. They said for sure the outlets have to be replaced. You cannot use those outlets. More than likely the electrical wiring itself will be all right, but it has to be tested. An ohm meter will indicate whether it's lost its conductivity, and they said the issue is when floodwater gets into a house and gets into the receptacles and the wiring, floodwaters are contaminated, dirt, silt, trash, whatever. And if it finds a place to get it, like in a junction box, find a place to collect and stay on bare wire, it'll affect the wiring. So it's questionable whether the wiring has to be replaced or not. That'll be up to once they get into it and see, but for sure the electrical outlets are to be replaced. Again, the plumbing features were in place, and they were working up until the water was shut off just shortly. 67% of the exterior is found to be unsafe based upon the criteria. The handrails on the back porch were not an issue. The roof is brand new. But the foundation, exterior walls, the porches itself, the front porch particularly with the settling of the concrete, and the doors, and there was a broken window in the front, but the doors not being secured. 4 of the 6 criteria, at 67%. Inside is, was all in violation. We could get inside. You saw evidence of the floors with all the water and the warpage. The walls, electrical outlets were damaged, and the ceilings. The structure, the electric had been cut off. The circuit breaker had no issues that I saw, no obvious issues. And the plumbing was not a concern, but interior met 67%. I want to highlight again the dangerous or injurious to health and safety. There's extensive amount of mold that we saw. We did not tear into any of the walls. I'm going to show you some other photos of it to illustrate the amount of mold, but the health concern is very critical. 10 out of 15, this structure met 67% of the unsafe structure. Both of these photos are the back side of a wall. Okay, so you have drywall on both sides. The front part has been removed, and what you're looking at is the inside of a drywall. So if this wall wasn't pulled out, we would not see the mold in both cases. Both those cases with the folks that was with us during the inspection, it's believed to be black mold. Here's a water line, again, inside a wall, so you can see where the drywall then moved out, and this is seeing what's behind the wall. Obviously, the insulation is gone from the water. It just fell apart. The heat and air system, if you look at on the brick wall, it floated off of its base. Additional mold in the bathroom that we saw earlier. I'll pause a minute and let you all look over Mr. Gardner's report. The first page is general language. The second page identifies the items, most of the items we look at, and then his recommendation. Here's some of his photos and his comments below. If you look at all the ductwork in this crawl space, imagine it all underwater, so there's water residue inside that ductwork, and from a health and safety perspective, it needs to go. Mr. Gardner also recommended that those floor joists, those 2x12s, probably need to be treated for mold, and that's a bleach system or whatever they use. But we know it's been subjected to water more times than one, and that those need to be treated. Here's more photos from him and his inspection. CDS did a notice of violation case in April of 2023. Photos I referenced to you a while ago. There's just a small $202 in taxes backlog as of this morning. And as of this morning, this is the house.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. DeArmond from board members? Okay, sir, we may call you back. Okay, Ms. Spain? All right. Are you going to be speaking on? Okay, sir, can you come forward? Okay, before you begin, let me first swear you in. Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay, sir, can you please state your full name and address, and what's your relationship to Miss Molly Spain?
Gary Ray Martin, 630 Hurl Way, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and I'm her son-in-law.
Okay, Mr. Martin, can you tell us about this property that's before us?
Yes, I just want to thank you for letting me speak on her behalf. My mother-in-law is 85 years old. I didn't want her to come tonight to she doesn't understand a lot of this, so I'm here
Okay.
not to argue about the house. The pictures tell what happened. I'm not refuting that. It has flooded several times. She doesn't understand why the city hasn't done something about the sinkholes, the flooding problem. I know there are houses over on Dawn Drive that have had water up to the steps of the front door. My brother owned one of them. But what I'm here to ask is that we have let me back up, excuse me, that we do have a buyer. He runs a construction company. At last, she told me, and this could or could not be true, I don't know how well she remembers, but the tax assessment on the house is a little over $200,000. We have a buyer who is willing to purchase the house at 10% of that figure, a little over $20,000, $25,000. I'm just here to ask that you approve that so that she can at least recuperate some of the money that she's going to lose in this venture, because she is going to lose a lot of money, not only the house, but the income off of the house. I have talked to him. He assures me he has a big enough crew to do this, and I've explained to him the time limits that are going to be put on him, the permits, and we are going to, he said he could be over here in the morning, and Mr. DeArmond has suggested that we meet with Mr. Britton, is that right? And Mr. DeArmond and another guy to have them explain explicitly to him. I don't want to enter into this and him be surprised. That's not our goal. He does want to buy it. He's in this business, and I want him to understand the parameters of what he's getting involved in. So that's
Okay.
all I have to say tonight. I don't have a big speech, but
Okay.
we just ask that you would approve the sale so that we can
Okay.
move forward
And
properly.
so is it your understanding that they want to renovate the house?
Yes.
That's
Yes, sir.
that's their
Yes, sir.
purpose?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so what you're requesting for us is basically time
Right.
to allow this construction company who wants to purchase this house somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000, time for them to clearly understand what they're getting into if they want to.
Yes, sir.
But if for some reason they can't, you understand the city needs to
Totally
take some
understand that.
action.
I do. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
for the record, I have talked with Mr. Martin and others, and I've also been provided with the purchase agreement signed by the purchaser for $25,000, along with a statement that he understands that he's under an obligation. If he purchases this property, he'll be in the same shoes as the current owner, that he's going to be bound by a timeline. So that timeline under the ordinance would be up to 90 days if it's subject to being renovated. If not, then he would have the same exposure, that the property would still be demoed, even if he completed 70% and didn't get it up to code, it would still be subject to demo. So I think that's what Mr. Martin is explaining, that he wants to make sure the purchaser understands that. Anticipating that this was going to be an issue, I drafted a standard agreement that we've used previously, where the city can approve in limited circumstances, can authorize the transfer of property that's subject to a code violation. And in that agreement, the new purchaser would be bound by the orders of this board, would step into the shoes of the current owner. So it would just be transferring that risk from Ms. Spain to the other purchaser. Based on that, it would be my recommendation to go ahead and allow that as an option if you so find that this is an unsafe property.
okay.
Would it be out of order to table this to give them time to meet?
I don't think you've got that discretion. Unfortunately, on an unsafe structure, you've got to make a decision, and you're bound by the ordinance to 90 days.
Okay.
So we do have the discretion of the 90 days that we'll discuss and can but no more than that. Okay, are there any questions from board members for, maybe for our city attorney or for Mr. Martin? Okay, all right, well, we're gonna, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Miss Spain? Oh, okay, you're a neighbor. Okay. Is your testimony to just confirm that we do have flooding and the issue there, or what? Okay, well, that's not in dispute, ma'am. Okay, yeah, that's not in dispute. I don't think I think the evidence has been presented that as supports that. So we're not, that's not in dispute. Well, yes, and like I said, none of that's in dispute, and even the agreement that the city is willing to go in with the builder explains the risk that they're going to be taking if they, so that's on them, and we have no control over that. Okay, all right. So listen, we're going to close the hearing on this case. So the board, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. DeArmond, do you have something to add?
I failed to mention in the renovation process, the unknown about the water damage. Once one starts a renovation process, like in this case, water and mold, there is no telling where the stopping point is. I want to make sure that the contractor understands it could very well be ripping the entire inside of that house out.
Yes.
The drywall, the studs, the floor joists, the ceiling, all the insulation. That's a pretty monumental task with a timeline.
Yes.
So as you all consider which way you should go, understand that with what we've heard, this house has flooded more times than one. Been patched up, I use the word loosely, patched up, fixed up, as quickly as it can. But it's got a lengthy history of mold and water throughout
Okay.
the structure.
And just to confirm, you're going to be meeting with these parties tomorrow?
I've offered.
You've offered?
I've offered to meet with them tomorrow to make sure that the contractor understands that. Nothing's been confirmed. I
Okay,
made the offer tonight.
nothing has been confirmed. And do you have plans to meet with
I'll be glad to, but at this point,
them, or you just drew up the agreement?
I've just drawn this up in the event that it's needed.
Okay,
So that they could move, because time is going to be critical.
okay,
So I wanted to have this ready in the event that's an option.
okay. So I guess depending on what the board decides, then it may be in the hands of Mr. Martin to get with you, get with the city attorney to make that sale happen. Because we're not going to facilitate a meeting. This board is not going to do that.
And if he denies tomorrow, if he changes his mind tomorrow, our action is what then, sir?
That's a good question. I guess maybe in whatever decision we make.
It's 90 days.
90 days.
Well, I mean, but I guess, are you asking if the buyer, let's say the buyer backs out?
Correct.
And decides doesn't want it, do we still have to wait 90 days? And
Once you give them the 90, they get
You give them 90 days, they got 90 days to do something, or we do something.
okay, I'm saying if the builder decides to back out altogether,
House
we
goes
still,
down.
it still has to sit there for 90 days?
No, the homeowner can actually tear it down if they wanted to,
But I'm saying the city,
within that 90
the
days.
city can't do anything.
Correct.
Wait 90 days.
Okay. Do you understand it too?
That's right. I agree. In the event the renovations are not made and completed, or in the event the owner does not demo, or the new owner does not demo, that would be another option. Then the city, on the expiration of that timeline, would demo.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're clear. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to close the hearing on this case so the board can deliberate in open session. First, we need to determine whether or not a violation existed for this property by motion and second. but the floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the property is in violation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, now we need to determine the penalty for this violation. The fine related to this penalty is a minimum of $350, maximum $700, plus there's a $200 administration fee. And you've heard the testimony of Mr. Martin and Mr. DeArmond, and so what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from others, but I'm certainly not a professional construction person, but I would be concerned about this property not being taken completely down, including the footing and everything. There's just a lot of damage and a lot of unknowns there, but I'd like to hear from everybody else as well.
Okay. Any other board members?
My thoughts is if a contractor goes into it and he's willing to put $25,000 of his own money to buy this property, he better be knowing what, what he's buying and have experience to come in there and renovate it and get it up to code, or, he's gonna be short $25,000 and more, because he's got to pay for the demolition cost of it later on down the road. So, if he's willing to put the cash up and to come in there and fix it up, and to bring it up to code, the key word up to code, then I have no problem with that, and giving him 90 days to do so.
Okay.
And he's always got the option, the new buyer, to completely demo and rebuild if he wanted to with the proper permit. So that's a choice he's going to have to make on his own.
Okay. You got any? Okay, well, here's my take on it, too. I agree. I'm not a construction guy neither, but it's a lot of work to get that up to date. And I understand the risk that the construction company is taking. However, I'm bothered by the fact that if we give them 90 days, and let's say tomorrow he decides, you know what, I don't think I want that house at all, I'm wipe my hands of it, then before any action that the city can take, it's going to take 90 days, if we give them 90 days. So I'm almost leaning toward we might need to consider giving less than 90 days, and that might put too much undue pressure on the buyer. I don't know, but for the city's hands be tied for 90 days is what's on my mind.
I understand your concern, but 90 days goes pretty quick. We're already at March, so we got April, May, June. We've got two more wet months, and then we're going to hit some dry months. So, it's not something that there was any testimony about any
Homeless or
homeless
anybody
moving
that's-
into it or anything like that. So, the 90 days will be here before the 4th of July, before we
Okay.
turn around here. So I have no problem giving them 90 days. We've given other people 90 days for houses that have been a lot worse.
That's true.
And then, on that part, so.
And that's not to mention the backlog that we're on right now anyway, so.
Okay. All right, well,
Chairman,
go ahead.
I move that we go ahead and assess the minimum fine, $350, $200 administrative fee, that we give the owner or new owner 90 days to bring this property up to code, that we allow the present owner the right to sell it to the buyer, their potential buyer, and that he be advised of what he's got to do, and he's stepping into the shoes of the present owner when he buys this property, according to the agreement that's written up by the city attorney.
Okay.
Second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions on that motion? All in favor, no matter saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 3, and I vote aye too, 4 and 1 nay. Okay, so motion carries. All right, let's move on our agenda. Unfinished business other than hearings, there's none. We got new business other than hearings. We have some default final orders for violation 95.02, some junked and abandoned vehicles. Mr. West, you come forward, please. Okay, let me swear you in. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay, sir, can you please state your full name, position, employer, and position for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Darnell West. I work for Hopkinsville Fire Department as a code enforcement officer.
Okay, Mr. West, tell us about these default final orders, these abandoned vehicles that's on our agenda tonight.
Yes, sir. So each one of the vehicles were a complaint received, an inspection done, notice of violation being sent, and the vehicles not being moved after the 10-day deadline. Thus, a citation being issued and brought before you guys today.
Okay. And were the procedures mandated by Chapter 33 of our code ordinance followed for these tonight?
To the best of my knowledge.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Okay, board, we have four vehicles that are identified as violation 95.02 on our agenda as default orders. City is requesting that we approve so they can take action on those vehicles. So, but we'll entertain a motion in a second. Oh, and yes, the fine is $200 plus a $100 administration fee.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter a default final order for those items listed on the agenda of 8A. Lists the fine at $200, $100 administrative fee for each one, and that if I'm correct, that the city be authorized to authorize the removal of these vehicles from the property.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Okay, are there any announcements from board members or from the staff?
I wanted to say that they're going to have the Garden Expo at the Extension Office April 11th and the 12th. On Friday night, it's going to be from 4 to 8, and then it's going to be Saturday from 9 to 4.
Okay, at the extension office.
We're supposed to have up to 40 vendors this year, so it's kind of a cool thing that people are wanting to do. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to get in. There's going to be food, and there'll be activities for kids and things like that.
Okay, and that's April the what? April
11th and the 12th.
okay. And that extension office on Pembroke Road?
Brook Road.
Okay, so I thought,
In the
okay.
back.
All right. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other announcements or?
Just a quick question. I had talked to Mr. Whelan in reference to the cases of the first, second, and third offense. Each January, we roll these, and everybody gets a fresh new start. And I asked Doug to look into that, and Doug, if you want to share.
Yeah, we have talked about that, and that's a matter of policy. And I can report that policy has changed, and that no longer will those be rolling, or those will roll from year to year. It's not going to be resetting at the beginning of each year. Of course, the code enforcement officer still has the discretion to not charge in certain circumstances. So I think that was the main concern. But, yeah, those will carry over.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and,
We will not have a meeting on April the 8th
okay,
due to city council being rescheduled to that day. However, we will have a meeting on April 22nd.
okay. All right, no meeting on April the 8th. All right. Okay, if nothing further, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you, guys.